Okay, I'm going to record this since most of us don't have computers. At least in your free time, whenever you have access to a computer, maybe you're practicing, you'll follow the recording. Okay. Okay. Now we are moving to the software, and we're going to look at this a little practically. Now, when you power on your computer, maybe for those of us who have never powered a computer, at least each and every computer has such a button, be it a laptop, be it a desktop. Now, this is the power on button. Now, if I have a system that has an independent monitor and an independent systems unit, if I power on the systems unit, I also have to power on the monitor. The monitor will also have that switch. I hope you're able to identify it, those who have computers. If I'm using a laptop is one whole bundle. I just power, there's only one switch that powers it all together. Okay? Now, once I power that on, as long as I have power, this is what will happen. Once I switch on my PC, a process that we call booting goes on. Does anyone know about booting? Has anyone heard of booting? What's booting? What do you know about booting? Starting a computer, the process of starting up a computer. Now, a number of things happen as your computer boots up. A number of things happen here. For example, we have looked at some of the crucial devices, right? We have looked at devices that if your computer is missing, your computer will never go on. For example, the memory, and also now during booting, these are some of the things that are checked for. Okay, in the process of booting my computer, there's a software that carries out the booting, and we call that the BIOS. BIOS stands for Basic Input Output System. And the BIOS goes ahead and carries out what we call the POS, stands for Power On Self Test. Now, what happens in the POS? As soon as I power on my computer, the BIOS will go ahead and check, do we have a CPU on this computer? Okay? If the CPU is on, then it will look for that. Now, if the memory is there, but there's no storage device with an operating system, I believe some of you have seen computers display black screens with some messages. At times it can say, boot device missing. At times it can say, no boot device, no operating system. That would mean I'm missing a storage device with an operating system. But in case there's a storage device that has, let's say, Windows, that's when I'm able to see my computer bring up the Windows logo. Are we together? So all that is done in the booting process by help of what we are calling the BIOS. The BIOS handles the POS, the Power On Self Test. Now, those are not the only things the BIOS does. We are going to come back to it. But as soon as we switch on the computer, this is what happens in the background. If the CPU is missing, my computer won't even light. But what I would see, maybe some of my keys will blink, let's say the caps lock, if I have no RAM, my computer won't go on at all. Are we together? So these two are very, very important. Okay, so we are saying we power on our computer. The BIOS handles what we call the post. Once this is checked and everything is in order, that's when we load up what we call the operating system. This operating system could be something like Windows. If you're using a Mac computer, it can be a Mac OS. Which operating system do you have on your phones? You can have Android, you can have iOS. You can have Linux, etc. Now, with that brief explanation of what happens when we power on a computer, that brings us to software. What is software? At least you know some of these. Some of you know some of these basic definitions. What's the software? What do you know about software? You have never heard of software. Now, software are just usually sets of instructions that run a computer according to users' tasks. Now, there could be several kinds of definitions, but I'll give you tasks where you create your own content. But software are just sets of instructions that run our computer. And in our software, we can always, which categories do we have? We have the system software, we have the user applications. Now, utilities are usually a subset of user applications, but we can just note them here. But they're usually a subset of user applications. Now, under the system software, that's where we'll have things like the firmware and the operating system. An example of a firmware is what I just mentioned, which is the BIOS. Okay, so from the example I've tried to break down, you notice before we get into the operating system, the firmware takes control first. If I was to have this as let's say if I was to have, let's say this is hardware, and on this end I have user applications. As soon as I power on my computer, the firmware is what directly interacts with my hardware. Then in between there is the firmware that loads up my operating system. OS stands for operating system. So in other words, our firmware is directly in control of our hardware. Okay, that's why you have seen it looks up the CPU, it looks up the memory, it looks up things like the motherboard. We'll talk about the motherboard as well. The RAM, etc. And if all is well, that's when it goes ahead and loads up our operating system like it's a Windows. Most of our phones run Android. Android is an operating system. Linux. Nowadays even we have Chrome, etc. I hope we are together. Okay. So we have talked about the firmware. I want us to move to the operating system. Now, an operating system is that software that bridges the hardware to the user applications. This is what I mean. Actually, it's right here. We are saying the operating system is a bridge between the hardware and the user applications. For example, has any of you had an issue with your phone? It can't power up, or when it powers up, it only shows the Android logo. You go to the technician and they tell you need to flash it. Okay? That usually happens when your operating system has bricked or has been corrupted. This is what happens. If I have an operating system, it's what will enable me, for example, let's say Android. It is this that is going to enable me to install my WhatsApp. On top of this, that's where I'll install. On top of this, this is where I'll install. In other words, without the operating system, there's no way I can use any of this. It's the foundation, it's the environment that enables this to be installed. I hope you're on the same page. So if my Android system, if my operating system has a problem, I can't access any of these. Are we together? That's why at times, if you have, let's say, maybe your phone is a little old, you may try to install some apps and they say they can't run on your phone. Okay? That's because the operating system you have is a little older and the applications you're trying to install are newer. So the two are not compatible. That's how crucial the operating system is. Now, for your computer, I don't know, some of you have working computers, you can power them on. Lab attendant. Help me call the lab attendant. The password, what's the password? Student is the password. Student. Okay, let's try and power on those computers. Those who have, the rest of us will try and use our phones. We'll get to those later. Okay, now as soon as I power on my computer, this is the window I'll see first. We call this the desktop. We call this the desktop area. We call this the desktop area of view. Now, by the time we get to this, booting is done, the post is done, and our operating system is fully loaded up. This is on a Windows operating system. This particular machine runs Windows. If you're using a smartphone, you'll see the home screen. Now, right here we see a number of things. Let me try and zoom in. These small images you see here are what we call icons. And we can have different kinds of icons. If you see any icon that looks something like this is a folder. An icon is just a shortcut that helps us open something. Are we together? Yesterday we talked about the right click and the left click. So if I want to open this, I will double left click. Icons can represent programs, they can represent files, they can also represent folders. For example, this is a folder icon, this is a program icon, this is also a program, this is a file icon. Okay, so that's the desktop view. Then at the bottom here, this bar that runs through is what we call the task bar. Okay, we call that the task bar. Now, this task bar can usually differ in appearance depending the taskbar can differ in appearance depending on the version of Windows I have, if it's a Windows system, and also on the type of operating system I have. For example, I think most of those computers are running Windows 10. You notice that this button here is in the corner here. That means your machine is running Windows 10. Mine is running Windows 11. But still, it's the same concept. When you look at the taskbar, it also has some kinds of icons, right? The first icon here is very, very important. We call this the start menu. Actually, when I tap on this, I'm able to see a number of things. It's like the starting point for you to gain access into your computer. If I tap on it, you can try and click on it on your end. If I'm running Windows 11, this is how it will look like. I can see a number of applications I can access. If I want to see all of them, I click on all. Okay? I can even search for an application. For example, I want Chrome, I'll search for Chrome there. Okay? If I want Word, I just type Word. If I want Excel, I just type. So whenever you're lost and you're looking for something, run to the start menu and search. Are we together? If you have internet, there's this search option here. Once you tap on this, it can even help you. It can search the computer and also the internet. Okay? Now we have some. Okay. Now for the smartphone, where do you get applications? If you need WhatsApp, where do you get it? From the Play Store. Now, Windows computers, operating systems, other operating systems have also stores where we can get these applications. For Windows, we have this. This is the Microsoft. So if I'm looking for an application, let's say I want to download WhatsApp. I can always click on the store, and I can, as long as I have internet, I can search for the app I want. Okay? You don't have to worry much. Actually, you may not even have to pay a technician for you to install an app on your computer. I believe many of you have been paying. But it's not hard. It depends on the application. You notice that there are some applications you need to pay for. But simple applications like WhatsApp, let's say you don't have a music player and you want VLC on your computer, You don't have to pay your 30,000 for a technician. You can just open it here and install. Let's say you want maybe Chrome. Let's say, yeah, we have Firefox here. You can get all these browsers here. Are we together? So next time you need an application, just run to the store, okay, and pick it up there. Now, in case you don't see, these machines are off. Most of them are off. Student isn't working. Okay, the good thing I'm recording this, I'm recording this, the whole session. So I think I'll put it up on a YouTube, then you can access there. It's a heavy video. I mean, I'll put it on YouTube and put the link in the group. Otherwise, it's a big video. It will be a little big to just drop it there. But if you want that, I can as well drop it there. Though YouTube would be the easier way. Okay, we have a few minutes. So we are still looking at the taskbar. Now the taskbar, if I'm running any applications on my computer, they will also show here. At the moment, these are the applications I'm running. Okay? If I see an application that has, I hope you can see this small highlight here. This right here. This would mean, now would easily see this in the other lab because it has the same exact, whenever you have free time, you can use the other lab. It has more functional computers. You go through the video as you practice. Whenever I see an app on my taskbar that has this gray highlight, it means the app is open, but it's not being used at the moment. It's minimized. Okay? Whenever I see an app like this, it's just on the taskbar, there's no highlight, there's no nothing. It means I pinned it onto the taskbar for easy access. It's not open at the time, but I just pinned it there. That means to access it, I don't have to always go to the start and look for it. Now your question would be, how do I pin an app here? And I'm going to demonstrate that. I'll go to the start. For example, I want to pin, let's say, the calendar. I want the calendar to always appear on my taskbar down here. I right click on the calendar, then I say pin to, and I hope you notice it goes there. So anytime I want it, I can always access it there. In case I don't need it there anymore, I right click on it and I say unpin from taskbar. As easy as that. Now, whenever I see an app that has a red highlight, that's a warning. Either something is wrong or I didn't. Let me try and open and see. Okay, now I think I was editing this photo, but I didn't save. So if I save and minimize, the red is no more. Oh, it's from here. No, this is a photo, but this is it right here. Here I just took a photo and put it there, so it can change. But I hope you can see, and now it's okay. Okay, so I hope we understand what this is now. What does this mean? This is WordPad, but I mean if I see an icon just there like that, we have pinned it onto the, now this one is active. This is an app I was using. We use this for editing. Let me try and open. Now this is what I was talking about. If you're into photo editing like this, you need a computer that has a GPU. If you're into video Let me just try and open this. Oh, can't unfold. Okay, this is a video editor. I just wanted to demonstrate something. But yeah, now this would mean this app is open but is not in use at the moment. This is also is open but not in use. This is what I'm using to record the session. Okay, now at the end here, this is another section we should look at. Now these are just device status icons. For example, if you're using a laptop, this is for the battery. This is for the speakers. If I want to work with the volume, I just tap on that and I'm able to adjust my volume. This right here is for the network, internet. If I'm connected via cable, usually connect to internet in two ways, via cable or people are facing out. What's happening? Hey, they are not. You don't want to see what we are. You're writing what you're not seeing. Okay, so this is for the network. If I'm connected via cable, if I'm connected via wireless, usually see how your phone shows. Then this is this device. That icon shows that I've what did we call this yesterday? A stylus or a light pen. What do you think this stands for? Microphone. This is the Bluetooth. I'm connecting to this via Bluetooth. That's why it's there. Then this particular one is a search application. Okay, we come to this here. This is usually for setting date and time. If I tap on this, I'm able to see my date and time. I hope we are together. Now, okay, as we conclude, let me just demonstrate to you how we check the RAM, how we check for the processor of our computer. It's very important. You don't have to go to buy a computer. They tell you it has 4 GBs of RAM, yet it has 1 GB. You should be able to check for yourself. How do I do that? We are going to go ahead. If you have a working computer, you can try and follow along. If you don't, at least you'll follow the video I'm going to share. You go to the start. At the start button, you'll search, at the start menu, you'll search for settings. Okay? The settings option pops up. You open it. Under settings, you'll move to system. Are we there? Under system, you'll scroll down. At the bottom, you'll find about. I'm restarting this. Start button, search for settings. Okay. Open up settings. Move to the systems option. Scroll down, choose the about. And right there, we have all the specifications. You notice my old storage shows up here. I have this is 1.8 terabytes. Since I have a GPU, it also shows. My GPU is 2 GB. My RAM is 24. And that right there is my processor. It's an i7. They don't have to tell me that my computer is maybe i7. They have given me an i3. I should be able to check for myself. You should be able to check for yourself. At least when you get time, access these computers and try and check for these. At least you follow the video. I hope we are together. Is there any question as we wind up? Yes. Now for the phone, let's try for the phone. Let's try for the phone. For the phone, I hope we all know how to access settings on our phone. So get to your settings. Are we there? For most phones, if it's a little newer, as soon as you open settings, there'll be an option for about phone. You see about phone. Some say my phone, eh? Some say about phone. Once you tap on that, you're able to see all these specifications. Storage. Some phones will call storage ROM. Eh? Storage. You see the name of your device. You see the version of your operating system, the Android. Now, for some phones, as you scroll down, there is an option for all specs. All specs, eh? Yes. Yes, please send her what she needs. Let me share a screenshot of what I'm saying. I hope we are all in the WhatsApp group. Okay, let me share quickly. Sure. Um, you can open system as well if you see system. Yeah. If your phone shows system, you can use that. It's the same. Some show my phone, some show system. Eh? Okay. This is what I'm saying. In some phones you see about. In some phones you see. Okay. So when you go to about phone, this is what you see. You see your storage. If your phone has this option for all specs, that's where you see the RAM. Of course, our phones differ a bit. When you go to all specs, let me share what you'll see. If your phone has an option for system, follow the system option. Eh? It will also lead you here. Okay. When you check out all specs, you'll see your RAM. Mine has a 4 GB. I can see the CPU as well. I hope we are getting there. Okay. Um, our time is really up. Is there any question? Okay. Now this is what happens. In our computer, actually, we're in our next session, we are going to look at how we customize the desktop area. Now, I can choose to position my taskbar in different areas. At times, you may have positioned it unknowingly. If I click on the taskbar and I choose taskbar settings, there is always an option to choose how to position it. Uh, you can position it as you wish. You can position it as you wish. So it's always about let me look for this option. Okay. For example, For example, I can say, I want it to automatically hide. You notice it, if I said that, it will only show when I hover there. Now, in your case, you must have been using Windows 10, I think. You are using Windows, or you don't know the Windows you are using. Is it on that PC? You must have been using Windows 10. On Windows 10, that's where you just rotate it around. But for Windows 11, I can only choose alignment. I can choose how to align it. But for Windows 10, I can rotate it around my desktop area. For Windows 11, we only, in most cases, actually, the only options we have here at the bottom. We can't rotate it around. That's for Windows 11. But in Windows 10, you can put it on the left, at the top, on the right, anywhere. Okay, members, I beg that we wind up and attend to the next group. I hope you have registered. Okay, maybe we can do that from outside as the rest come in.